Remember to send in your views. Just type in this number on your phone, 0288-500-600, and we'll read as many of your messages on WhatsApp as possible. Today's edition of Hard Talk focuses on the withdrawal of the 1% tax on interest and on investments in financial instruments, as well as slashing the withholding tax in the last amendment from 15 to 7.5%. Now, the introduction of these two taxes as part of the income tax amendment attracted a lot of hue and cry from the public and from financial service providers and investment analysts. Now, this was the problem. They were thinking that it was a disincentive to citizens with liquidity, with cash to spend and invest. They may rather keep the cash under their beds, under their pillows, instead of investing this cash in financial products. So the outcry saw the president tell the nation during his media encounter with the press that he had written to Parliament to withdraw that tax. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority subsequently advertised that banks should desist from charging those taxes, and banks obliged. Now, what happened was that it made some minority MPs accuse the government of defying Parliament. But the government take into account the concerns of the public before introducing these taxes. What was the whole deal behind that? Or is it business as usual, really, where the government can ignore what is happening as far as enforcing of legislation? Well, with us to discuss these issues, we have Benjamin Bodo. He's an MP, a member of the Finance Committee in Parliament, and Dr. Lord Mensah, who is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Dr. Mark Asibe Yeboah will join us on the phone later. But gentlemen, you're welcome to this conversation right here on GH1 TV, GH Today. Good morning. Yes, and Happy New Year to both of you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so quick off the top of my head, I'm asking, did it surprise you, Honorable Bodo, that the Income Tax Amendment Bill of 2016 didn't come under a certificate of urgency?
That it did not come
yes.
under certificate of urgency?
Yes, the amendment that has been introduced, yes.
Well, the normal process is that when an amendment is being proposed or a bill is to be laid, it is brought to Parliament. Then the Speaker refers it to the appropriate committee. And the committee determines whether it is of urgent nature or not, deals with it, makes a report to the House, and it is debated and passed. Several things can happen to make it look like an urgent bill. In fact, in our standing orders, there is provision to set aside the requirement that a motion should take 48 hours before it is debated on the floor. That can be set aside, and then the debate can be taken for a motion to be passed or rejected. So it's necessary to bring it now and let us deal with it as quickly as possible, because there is an existing law which cannot be flouted, and because of the agitation from the public, something has to be done about it. Mm-hmm. And so we need to handle it now.
We were talking initially about how to get the full understanding of the 1%, withholding tax that we talk about. That is the one that charged on fixed deposits or investments, right? And we could talk about treasury bills as well.
Yes.
When we talk fixed deposits.
Yes.
Okay, as well as any deposit, any investment that you make.
Interest on bonds.
Okay.
And so on
and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the one that is charged 1%.
Yes.
And then when we come to the withholding taxes, what has been now slashed from 15 to what, 7.5%. Could you, let me come to you, Doc. Can you just throw a bit of light on that for us, exactly what it means?
Right. If you look at the withholding tax, normally this is a tax that they slice from you when you invest. You invest from your interest that you earn. So like we're discussing, if you talk about interest about 10% on the 100 Ghana that you invest,
mm-hmm.
The 10% is 10 cedis.
Yes.
So they're going to take 1% of the 10 cedis. So whatever 9 points, whatever figure that comes up to you is what you take home as your interest.
Okay.
But then this has a history. And if you look at a country where individuals are enjoying tax-free on their investment for a longer time, this is too sudden in a way. it would have been a tooth sudden. So if you look at the amendment, it makes sense for me. It's in a good direction because withholding tax, it's a tax that exists where you think, for me, the individual cannot willingly walk into a station to go and pay his tax. Then an agent that is providing the service will withhold a tax, and then the agent will relay the tax to the system. So that is how it's supposed to be.
So are we saying that, say I am offering, let me put it in the form of goods. Okay, so I'm supplying your company with X number of goods, and it comes to this amount. Yeah. And instead of you paying me the full amount, yeah, you're deducting this percentage from your side to be paid to government in taxes? Is that what it is?
No, from your side, the supply of the goods.
Okay, so you're not paying me the full amount.
No,
so
I withhold part of it.
Okay.
From your the interest that you will make. I withhold part of it and then pass it on to the government. Now, normally, this taxes comes in an environment where there's a perception that the individual, okay, for instance, the one investing, cannot walk to anywhere. So let's say, for instance, IRS say, whatever investment you are making, you have a free will. They're not pushing you to come and invest, to come and provide 1% as tax. You know, it will be difficult for the investor to work there after he's taken his interest. So withholding tax is the financial service or a resident institution providing the services, okay? Providing the services, and then the interest that you're going to earn on the investment, the agent or the financial institution will withhold 1% of it, and then that 1% will be relayed to the government.
Yes.
Let me clarify this.
Okay.
There are two things which we are talking about.
Exactly.
When you provide a service, you charge the client.
Yeah,
if you charge the client, say 200 Ghana cedis for the service that you are going to render to him or her, the law requires that 15% of that 200 Ghana cedis should be declared as withholding tax and paid to government.
Which is the figure that was moved from 5% to now 15%?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes. So it's a separate thing from the 1% issue.
Sure.
Right.
Now, that withholding tax is actually a credit to you, the supplier of the service.
How is that a credit to?
Yes, you are issued a tax credit. Then at the end of the financial year, you file your tax returns,
okay,
declaring all your revenues. Then the assessor from the GRA will compute what incomes of yours, after all your incomes have been assessed, they will declare what portion of it is chargeable to tax.
Okay.
Then, if the amount is arrived at, your credits, the withholding tax credits, will be taken out of the total amount payable as tax by you. Then you may pay the balance. But if your withholding tax happens to be in excess of what you are due to pay, your tax liability, then you have a credit, which can be run into the next year, or provisions are there for refund where necessary.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
well,
now, that is different from the 1% tax on interest income.
There are two issues.
So there are two different issues.
Exactly.
So you cannot, don't let us lump them together.
That is why I was trying to get the understanding from you. But
now let me get you the background. You see, economists agree that there are 4 factors of production. We have land, we have capital, we have entrepreneurship, and we have labor. Now, each of these factors of production receives rewards. Land in form of rent, entrepreneurship in form of profit, labor in form of wages, and capital in form of interest. Now, all of these are incomes earned by the providers of these factors. It is only capital's reward in form of interest, which is exempt from tax. You know, our wages, they are taxed.
When you say capital's reward,
which is interest.
Good.
That is the interest. Interest is a reward for putting your money aside.
Let me come in here.
Just let me finish before you come in.
Okay.
Now, wages are taxed. Rent is taxed. Entrepreneurship has a reward of profit, and it's even taxed on a two-stage. One, the profit that you earn. If you are a corporate institution, you pay corporate taxes. Then, when you distribute dividends to shareholders, who are also, investors, who are also entrepreneurs, without being active in the management of the company, you still pay tax on the dividends. You get the point. So all of these are in the system. It's only capital which reward is interest that is exempt from tax.
And so based on what you are saying...
And it was done for a purpose.
Honorable.
In an earlier period, there was this desire to encourage people to save so as to mop up excess liquidity within the system. So they say, okay, you take your money to the bank, get your interest, but no tax on it.
We won't tax your interest. And
so
have we finished saving? Have we mopped up a lot of savings?
It's been a very long way. It's been a very long way since that was introduced. So, you see, I think government had a good intention to make sure that all incomes are, from all sources of income, contributions are made to the nation's revenue.
But the government did not do its due diligence, did it? Otherwise, there would have not been this haste to withdraw this tax.
No. You see, our government is a listening government.
No, but why?
You are very good.
Honorable. Why do you throw something in and then withdraw it when you have an outcry?
Are you surprised by that?
Why not then do your due diligence first? Make sure everything is in order before you present it.
No, you see, when you talk of due diligence, it's like something was just thrust upon us.
That's exactly how it felt.
No.
We woke up one morning and that's what we saw.
No, that's not correct. That law, that bill had been with us for a very long time.
And then it was announced one day that this was going to happen.
We discussed it at committee levels. We discussed it on...
We're not in the committees.
Yes,
it was
advertised. GRA advertised the whole bill. GRA advertised
as in Ghana Revenue Authority.
Yes. Advertised the
bill. Going forward.
So I don't think it was something just thrashed on us. But our government is listening to the citizens that is in charge of. When something has been introduced, it's a very small thing. Let me give you an example. You have 100,000 Ghana cedis to invest in a bank for 1 year at 25%. At the end of the year, you earn interest of 25,000 Ghana cedis. Now, what is 1% of 25,000? 250. That is what you pay out of 25,000 interest, which you have earned. So that is the expectation of government. 250 Ghana cedis out of 25,000. That is the tax element, the 1%. But when people begin to cry foul, cry out against it, government says, okay, let me take it back. It had happened before.
Yes.
The VAT was introduced.
And there was Kumi Preko.
And people were shouting. Government withdrew
Honorable.
it. And based upon further education.
Your point is made.
Further education, it was reintroduced. Yes.
Following Kafui's question on due diligence, you said no. But listen, let me come to you. If indeed government did due diligence, would we find ourselves in this situation where now we're having to withdraw? Honorable made mention of the fact that we're trying to encourage savings. Already we have a larger, or should I say a vast majority of the population that are unbanked. Okay? So if indeed we want to encourage savings, would we have to go that high and then have to now slash it because people are crying?
Yeah, I think, fine. Slashing it and then also introducing the tax has its implications. And the implications are that you've sent a signal out there to the potential investor and an already existing investor. Now, the already existing investor sees it a decent incentive. Now, let me take this opportunity to clarify something here where Honorable said we have tax free on interest. It's not free throughout. At the institutional level, when an institution does investment, it is being taxed. It is the individual level that taxes are not deducted from interest in this country. Now, if you look at it carefully, we have a history. We're trying to allow people who keep their money underground, where people who are not being captured in the formal sector, okay, to come into savings. Now, to introduce this tax, back to your question, please, to introduce this tax, I mean, you're creating the environment where we're not talking about fractions of money. Look at the quantums of money that people might have in the bank and taking what? 1% of it. Look at the quantum of what monies people will earn, companies will earn, providing financial services and taking 7.5 of it. Now,
just a little.
Let me land.
No, I just want to...
Let him land. You get it. We have enough time. Don't worry. We have enough time. We have enough time. Don't worry.
Sorry about that. Now, if you look at the world, the trends in the world, if you look at our part of the world, if you look at financial exclusion, there's a huge underground economy that has not been captured in the formal sector. Now, how many people are banked in this country? Moving the
24%.
24%.
Yeah.
If you look at the percentage, it's a very small number of percentage. Now, if you look at what is happening on the grounds here, you know, if an illiterate or someone who doesn't understand, savings, and then he knows that, fine, if I invest, you're going to what? Deduct money from the interest I earn. Do you think you're encouraging the person to invest?
Not even
so
the
there's more or less, you know, extending the exclusion, you know, when you introduce this kind of taxes.
Honorable Podos shakes his head.
The taxes, you know, when you look at tax on interest, it's quite dynamic across the geographic and then economic region. How many people understand investment in this country? That you're going to tax them on their interest.
Are we educating them enough?
Are we educating them enough? Giving them financial education to invest? Then you realize that more people have been captured. Did we notice the number of investors that we're going to scare, okay? And then the possible increase in the taxes that we're bringing in. So for me, it is a surprise. And then I'm not surprised to that because it's a hand-tied situation for the government. If you look at management of this country, the finances and all those. Now you realize that for now, raising money out there, both external and internal, is quite difficult. So the only way, possible way, is to increase taxes and find means of what? Pushing taxes on people who are already paying taxes. Now, if you look at the banking sector, this 24% that you're talking about, I can tell you about 20% out of it will be those who are already in the formal sector. So they are the same people keep on piling tax upon tax, and every now and then. So for me, it's a surprise thing. And trust me, the signal has already been sent out there. If it's 15%, definitely the 15%, the notion, the potential investors' notion is that it's likely the 15% will come up. And in the end, if you are competing with an environment where they have low taxes, you will see migration of businesses to those areas. And you will see migration of funds into other countries.
It definitely has effects on businesses, no doubt.
Right.
Question?
Yes.
You wanted to respond to something?
Yes, I was
quickly,
shaking I wanted Doc to clearly explain this issue to our viewers and to the nation at large. The point is that it is not money that you've sent to the bank that is going to attract the 1% tax.
That's the interest.
No. It is what you have earned on top of that money. So your principal investment is untouched, completely untouched. You see, and if you say that because of 1% tax on interest earned, I will keep my money in the house. If you keep 100,000 in your house because of 1% tax on the 25,000 that you earn, you know what you are going to lose? 25,000 minus 250. That is what you are going to lose. So it is unwise for you to keep your 100,000 under your bed because you think that when you send the 100,000 to the bank and you earn interest of 25,000, the nation or the state will take 250. I think it is.
But people are not informed.
That is
They're
the
not
point.
informed. But
I agree with you.
Now.
I agree with you on that course that yes, we need to educate people, explain to them. Now, if you take the bank's financial reports, which will soon come out, by March they will all be out, just look through interest paid out, then calculate 1% of it, and see what much it can do for us as a nation.
Okay.
Yes, you see the point.
When we come back, though, I'll be interested to find out how this relates to government's desire to raise some more funds to support the 2016 budget. So that I'll be hearing from you when we come back.
Of course, you're watching GH Today. Hard Talk is looking at the issue of taxes, that 1% on interest earned from investments, and then the withholding tax, which was previously 5%, was taken up to 15%. That was a proposal, and revised now to 7.5%. Your comments on 0288-500-600. We're going to go for a spot of international news on the world in 60 seconds. And then but before that, we spoke with a gentleman in the financial industry. He is an expert on the stock exchange. He's the CEO and director of African Alliance Securities, Ghana Limited. His name is Winston Nelson. On this very topic we are discussing, and take a watch, and we'll be back with more from our guests right here. This is GH Today on GH1 TV.
We in the industry welcome the idea that government is reconsidering it. Generally, we were not opposed to government deciding to tax income. We think that we have to give it a careful consideration. Where careful consideration means we want to be sure that any form of tax that is introduced on investment returns for individuals will not severely affect behavior of individuals on the market. If somebody has never paid tax on something, immediately you decide to put a tax there, definitely it would affect behavior. As to the extent to which it will affect behavior, most of the time you can only know some months or days in once the tax runs. What I can say is that most people, because they haven't paid, once you said you're going to introduce tax, some people will decide that they are not going to buy treasuries again. However, I think government envisaged that. That's why they kept the tax at 1%. For institution, corporates, it is 8%. So if they start individuals with 1%, they are just also trying to test to see would people stop buying it or would people still continue to buy it. My general impression is that the 1% was just a start. They just want to test how the market will respond, and down the line, this tax would probably start trending upwards. Well, I think individuals are happy. 1%, especially for individuals who are not buying huge sums, 1% would not even, they may not even see it. It will be a small dent on what kind of returns they get. Those who bought in large quantities, their tax rate, if they had to pay 1%, then they will start to note the numbers out there. So for most individuals, I guess they will be happy psychologically that, okay, fine, the tax has been withdrawn, we are not going to pay the tax again, so they will be happy. For businesses that buy these things for individuals, well, if individuals still keep buying at the rates they are buying, nothing affects them. So I guess they would also be quite pleased to see that this tax has been withdrawn.
So that was Winston Nelson, an expert on the stock exchange, talking about this conversation we're having, that 1% on interest earned, and then the withholding tax, which is now at 7.5%. Honorable Podo, we are getting a few comments coming in, and we'll check them in a short while. But
exactly. Remember that I put a question to him before, the world in 60. So I was asking that we're talking about these taxes and how that it's telling on government's desire to raise more funds to support the 2016 budget.
Right. Yes, that's important. If you do a budget, you expect to fund the expenditures in the budget. And if your regular sources of income to fund the budget are not living up to your expectations, then you have to be innovative. You have to shop around.
Which means burdening the Ghanaian.
Yes.
Really? No, since you cannot go and take money from abroad.
Automatically, that's what it means.
Who else is going to build Ghana for us? Americans pride themselves that out of their labor, out of their taxes, they built their country. And they are very proud of it. Who else is going to build our country for us?
What is the history with us and taxes? Are we talking about who else building our country for us? What is our history with taxes? How effectively have we done this?
All these very major projects that you are seeing around, where do you think we're going to get the funding from? You think that Yes.
It used to
when
be
you borrow,
loans. It used to be loans, and now the
when you
sources
borrow,
of
you
loans
have
are
to pay.
Still
drying
loans.
up.
When you borrow, you have to use your revenue to pay.
So the revenue in the form of our taxes is what we're using now to pay
yes, because
the
the
loans?
nation's revenue comes from the taxes that the citizens pay. If you are an employee of Star, you earn your salary here. If you want to buy a car, which your monthly salary cannot pay for immediately, you go and borrow. Does it mean that the loan is free? You'll be paying for the car on a monthly basis through the servicing of the loan. So even every loan that we pay, we take, we have to, pay back from revenues earned in the future. And therefore, that's the only way we can fund development of our country.
Okay. Yes. Honorable Podo, I know Dr. Mensah is dying to come in, but let's just jump on the line and speak with somebody you should know very well. He's Honorable Mark Asibe. He's a deputy ranking member on the Finance Committee in Parliament. Honorable Asibe, good morning. Welcome to GH Today.
Good morning. The ranking member would be Dr. Anthony.
Yes, you are deputy ranking.
No, I'm not near that one.
Oh, okay, all right.
Member of the committee.
Okay, I apologize for elevating you prematurely. But you're welcome to the show. But you sit on that committee, and I'd just like to find out from you, what is the minority's position what was the position of the minority when these taxes were announced to you, really?
Now, these were not standalone taxes.
Exactly.
There was a whole income tax bill that was passed into law. There was an existing Income Tax Act, and then some of the taxes laid somewhere, so all of them were consolidated, and a new Income Tax Act 896 came into force. This was passed way back in September, but the president assented to it and directed that it comes into force 1st of January 2016. Now, one of the key provisions in this new Income Tax Act was that there will be a 1% withholding tax on interest and on investment. That would be if you have a savings account, treasury bill, mutual funds. When you earn any interest on them, then the banks will withhold 1%. Now, the bank started collecting this tax from the beginning of the year, from 1st to 13th January. Then, on the afternoon of the 13th, the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority sent out a directive stopping the collection of the tax. That is where there's confusion. Now, he had no such powers. Not even the President or the Finance Minister could have stopped the collection of the tax. It came to the fore in Parliament, and the Speaker rebuked them. So quickly, they laid an amendment to this act in the House. So that's where we are right now. So there's an amendment to take away the withholding tax and also to revise the withholding tax on services, which was 7.5, increased to 15, and now they are bringing it back to 7.5. So the government of the argument is that, is it possible for you to stop the collection of a tax when it has been passed by Parliament? Nobody has such powers. You have to revert back to Parliament for Parliament to do the amendment before it comes into force. So between 13th January and today, and continuing until such amendment is passed, we are losing revenue because somebody has so decided that we should stop the collection of the tax because it's unpopular. I'm not in support of this tax, but the right thing has to be done.
Doc, so you say that you're not in support of this. So is this coming as a surprise to the minority now the government is saying, let's review it? Now we are withdrawing 1% charged on fixed deposits and slashing the withholding by half. Is it a pleasant surprise to the minority?
No, it's the right way to go. If the government is withdrawing the tax, I'm in full support of it. My problem with the government is to have gone ahead and announced that the collection of the tax be stopped when Parliament has when Parliament had not decided so. Okay, so somebody sits in their office and just directs that, beginning today, stop the collection of this tax. Now, you have caused financial loss to the state. Two, it's an affront to Parliament and to the President himself that the President assents to a law and some an elected official sits in his office and says that, no, I'm not going to collect this, and sends the directives to all banks, and banks follow suit. It's a dangerous precedent, and it should not be able to continue.
Honorable Asibe, when the tax was introduced into the House of Parliament, we did not see any outcry from the minority. Are you now cashing in on public sentiment and say, oh no, this thing has to be withdrawn, it's not right?
I'm not confusing my arguments. I said I'm not in support of the tax. The procedures used in stopping the collection, right now the government has come to revise it, and it's a good thing to do. But you cannot stop the collection of the tax without recourse to Parliament. Okay? So, in as much as I would want to see the tax go, the period within which the tax has not been collected by an administrative fiat is problematic.
Right. I get what you're saying on that point, but I'm just taking you back a little bit back into history. Did the minority oppose it when this tax came up for discussion in Parliament?
That's why I gave the background that this was a review of the income tax, the existing income tax law that existed. If I show you the document, this is about a 200-something page document, okay, with several clauses in it. One of them is this withholding tax on interest and on investment. We opposed this as committee. We told them that it's never happened in this country. So the government even sent a letter to the Speaker to revise it on the 21st of December, even before it came into force. Okay? So we had opposed it, and then somebody realized that, no, this was not going to sit well with the Ghanaian people. So on the 21st of December, the Minister of Finance wrote to the Speaker of Parliament that they want to amend that provision in the Act. So before it came into force on 1st January and people started complaining, we had long opposed it.
Doc, just before we let you go, though, I remember that at a point some members on the floor of Parliament suggested that government withdrawing or GRA withdrawing the tax was a violation to the House. What is the minority's position on this?
Yeah,
and indeed, if it is a violation, what are we talking about?
If Parliament passes a law, it is only Parliament that can amend the law, okay? There are so many laws on our statute books. So some public servant somewhere just decides, oh, I'm not going to respect this one. We are not going to collect this tax. It doesn't happen that way. It's only Parliament. So if there's a law and then it doesn't sit well with government, you come to Parliament and do the proper thing. That's what we are talking about. So somebody has caused the state to lose money. And I don't know where they derive that power to just issue a statement to financial institutions that beginning 30th of January, stop the collection of the tax. That is dangerous.
Okay, many thanks for your time. Dr. Mark Esibeyeboah is a member, and I hope I got that right, member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. And we're still having this conversation on the 1% withholding tax charged on fixed deposits that have been withdrawn by government, and indeed the 15% that had been slashed. Okay, but Honorable Kodo, I saw you shake your head on the violation bit, the last question that I posed to Dr. Esibeyeboah.
Yes, actually, he made reference to the entire bill, which we considered. We went to several places to discuss the bill. But I can say that these provisions were passed by consensus.
From both sides?
Yes. Maybe my colleague will refresh his memories. There was no acrimony on these issues. That notwithstanding, when laws are passed and you do not want to implement them, you still need to go to the people who passed the law. And yes, and the Speaker has upheld that position. But
can we censure GRA for putting out that,
no, they
announcement?
They expressed their intention. They expressed an intention to withdraw it. They didn't say it was withdrawn. In
But
fact,
can they withdraw it? They can't withdraw it.
newspaper reports-
They can't withdraw
There is a
it.
process for
Some
withdrawing
newspaper
it.
reports suggested that
There is
it had
there
been
is a
withdrawn.
process for withdrawing it. So they indicated their intention. In fact, the president even said that a letter was being written to the speaker, so that when we resumed, we will look at that tax. So I don't think expressing interest amounts to violation of the law. Indeed, the interests are still in the banks. They are still in the banks. If we go to the House and Parliament decides that no, this 1% should not be withdrawn, but we should do something about it, the banks can still take the money from the people who earn the interest. So I don't think this 2-week thing is fatal to the entire process. So we agree that, yes, it's only Parliament that can amend the law. So whatever the Minister of Finance said, whatever GRA said, they were all simple indications of intentions to, get the law amended. But that should not be misconstrued to mean that they have changed the law by word of mouth or by fiat. No, it's not done anywhere.
Dr.
So we
Mensah,
have agreed
your
to
comments, please, on what you heard from the honourable member.
For me, with my academic eyes and mind, I would say that, fine, looking at increasing it to, introducing 1%, and then also 5% increasing it to 7.5, have you assessed the monies that you're going to generate from there? And then also identifying those underground, okay, the monies that you can generate from there. And then you stop increasing increasing taxes on interest and then also services in the formal sector, which you always increase, a way of burdening already taxpayer in this country. So for me, we need to assess the two situations on the ground. They should have done that before going to Parliament with this bill.
Let me stay with you and ask this question, though. Some have suggested that maybe government should be focusing more on consumption taxes rather than paying as you earn, which is usually kind of triggered by the least provocation, which is what we see.
Yes.
You're crying against.
Well, mind you, consumption taxes, VAT is already
in there.
Like fuel.
Like fuel.
Fuel is a consumption tax.
In
Yes.
And people are crying against those ones.
Yes.
So
they're
for
crying against
me, it's a way of doubling what is already on the ground.
Okay.
So how does, I believe, looking at it from where I sit, the government is in a quandary, really, because foreign sources of funding are drying up, and the only resort the government has is to look at the working population of Ghana and then convince us to pay more. Is it that the communication is wrong? That you've not made the argument that, look, we need to pay? And we know that the number of people who are paying taxes in this country, because it's a huge informal economy, so people are getting away with not paying taxes. So the very few who are paying taxes are being burdened with even more taxes.
I think you need to distinguish between the type of taxes you are referring to. Yes, you see, direct taxes may be the one you are referring to, that not many people are willing to pay direct taxes. Mm-hmm. But the majority, even my old lady in the village, pays taxes.
Indirectly?
Yes. That's the consumption tax we are talking about. Once you buy geisha, once you buy, what do you call it, soap, once you buy cloth, you are paying taxes. So every Ghanaian pays
Does your old lady in the village often buy geisha?
Yes. Yes.
You don't send it to
Your
her?
old lady does, right?
But when I buy it and she uses it, it means she's paying for it.
Really? Dr. Mensah?
Yes.
No, so what I mean is that a lot of Ghanaians pay taxes. But whilst they are willing to pay taxes on goods and services that they receive, they find it very, very difficult to pay income taxes. That is, they have got the money in their pocket, and you are telling them that bring it out. That is the difficulty. So the better way is to...
That's why it has to be withholding, so that will be taxed from...
Now the principle of withholding tax is that it does not become tax until GRA declares it as tax. It's an advance. You have given to
So
government.
GRA determines.
Yes. When you
What
have
is
filed
taxable?
when you have filed your returns, then we determine whether the withholding tax you have paid is in excess of what you are supposed to pay or is less than what you are supposed to pay.
I think the question my colleague was asking, you know, looking at how the slam on commodities like gold and
yes,
yeah,
it is a difficult time this
Yes.
time for our country. You know, commodity prices are down. I mean, what you send out there, it's going to be bought at a lower price.
Exactly.
And in the end, the interest that we can borrow from the market is also on the higher side already. And then in the end, simple economics tells us that, I mean, when you borrow so much and in the end you are not able to pay, it's your citizens that pays.
Exactly.
Okay, in the form of taxes. So for me, I remember in a conversation, Honorable was saying we use taxes to pay debt. No, no. Debt are borrowed to come and to be invested in, you know, most projects that can be self-financing. So in the end, the project pays itself. So for taxes to pay debt, it's quite questionable.
It's not always.
Well, I guess so. So that's what
If-
it,
if-
that
unless-
is the
unless the-
practice
unless
now
the
then, I
project
guess,
fails.
Honorable.
If it is a social project, like you build a hospital,
Yeah, that
how
one
much
you
are
pay
you going
with
to
taxes.
generate from? Yes, if you borrow to build a hospital, like the one the government is doing now.
That's
University
why
of
you need to
Ghana.
identify
Yes, so-
the type of
so
project you're coming to do
eventually-
and what you borrow.
eventually
For
you
social
will-
project, you don't borrow to finance social projects.
But we have done that.
You do
so
that. Yeah, so
whenever
that's
we collect
kind
the
of
taxes in
mismanagement.
future,
Thank you.
we will have to use it to pay.
Let me ask you
You
this
just
question,
took it out of my mouth.
Dr. Mensah. So you're an academic. What would you advise if you were made an advisor to the government? How would you advise that they generate revenue? Because taxation is to find money for the government to do what it wants to do.
Exactly.
What would you advise a country like Ghana to do?
For now, as we stand, it's only taxes that can bail us out. And that is what is happening.
Good.
Because we've made a mistake. And the mistake being that we couldn't identify social project from commercial project. We've seen projects we borrow and then we come and use it to finance social project, which the payback is a long time. So we're looking at investing in a school. If you invest in classrooms, you're looking at this young kid's going to grow up until maybe 25 years. And it takes about, for a person to get a job who is graduated, that he's settled on his job, before you can start taxing consistently, it takes about 35 years before, in this country, before you can settle on a job that you want to settle on. And look at the time, okay? So paying back those, what do you call it, those social projects with commercial, borrowing is kind of questionable. And that was a mistake. And in the end, the taxpayer has to bear the burden of it.
Is the mistake still being committed?
Oh, yes, I mean it.
Okay, okay, Honorable, just quickly.
Yes.
And then I'll go.
Whilst I will commend the president for taking this bold step to withdraw
Rather
the
than,
tax.
rather than doing due diligence.
But the withdrawal has sent a
To
signal out
withdraw.
there.
Yes, people are aware that that is possible. I would even recommend
Yes.
that this should be reintroduced at a future date.
You mean the 15% to be reintroduced?
No, the 1%
Okay.
on interest end should be reintroduced. In fact, it could be modified in such a manner that
that's the
will
signal I told you.
protect
Sugar-coated.
that will protect lower interest earners. Like, our wages. The first so and so amount of money, no tax. The next 5%, the next 10%, and so on and so on. It can be, the thresholds can be organized in such a manner
all
that
right then.
the lower
Honorable,
interest earners will be
let me
protected.
just hold you right there and do this quickly. So we've been speaking to some of you, your feelings exactly how it is on the withdrawal of the 1% tax charged on fixed deposits. And these were some of your responses. Take a look.
Actually, when I heard the news on the air, I was very happy they've suspended. But I was again surprised to hear that it needs parliamentary approval before the correction could be done, or whatever they want to do could be done. So we are waiting for Parliament to, as soon as possible, pass whatever bill they have to cancel or to nullify the earlier decision taken by Parliament.
I think that 1% increase in taxes, to me, I think is something that is outrageous in a way, because as you've seen, things are very difficult in the country right now. And so increasing taxes would definitely mean that more hardship on the people. So definitely, I think for now, they should have withhold the 1% increment.
Generally, I felt that, first of all, the law had been passed. We were not, I mean, more like Ghanaians generally do. We don't ask for anything, and then it comes up that it has been implemented. And then we begin asking questions as usual. Well, I think it is good that government has taken it. Government could take its time, educate people, and then implement it again.
I think it's in the right direction. I mean, it's quite expensive. Things are expensive now, so yeah, it's good that I think it's in the right direction.
Oh, actually, I was happy because when I received that text message, I thought, we're being overtaxed. Everything at the same time, fuel, increments in fuel prices, and utility tariffs, all at the same time. And then this one also came. So I felt it was, we were being overtaxed.
Okay.
So you get a feeling from the people we spoke to that, well, they're happy that the government has called for moves to withdraw this particular tax and reintroduce at a certain time. You think it will come back with some better education? You hinted at that, Honorable Podo.
Yes,
that you would advise that they bring it back.
I'm not speaking the mind of government about this particular suggestion that I made earlier, but I think that from history, when the VAT was first introduced, and there was that hue and cry, it was withdrawn. But subsequent to that, there was a lot of the education around the country, and it was reintroduced.
So it's likely that it may happen.
And we are enjoying the benefits of the VAT today.
Doctor, let me just get Dr. Mensah's comment on this. It almost seems like a broken record that and it's almost like the government just plays with us, whichever government is there. You hit something big and see if it's there's a reaction, which is okay, you continue. If it's not, then you come back and then reintroduce. And I'm worried that this is the way we go about introducing policies into the system. But you also mentioned that the withdrawal of these taxes has sent a signal out to who?
The investor and the potential
What
investor.
kind of signal are we talking about
here? The signal being that the taxes will still be up again. Like you mentioned, we have a history with the VAT, where it was introduced earlier, but then in the end it has to be withdrawn. But then with people's agitation upon that, it was introduced. So there's no way this bill, the 1%, will not come back to us. So the investor knows that, fine, let me plan with my investment now with the bank. We're talking about huge sums of money in terms of investment. So the 1% is valuable. Okay, you might think 1% for now, looking at a low scale, is something small. But in the end, the 1% is valuable because the 1% might have an alternative investment somewhere that can yield a lot for the person. So in the end, you encouraging the person to move his money out of our system. But then for me, okay, the signal I'm talking about is that the investor knows that this country has a history, okay, of introducing something and then listen to the people and then in the end withdraw it and then comes back to the people again. So for me, the investor still knows that this operations, 1% on interest and on what?
It's coming back.
It's coming back.
Okay. Well,
as if to be testing the waters.
Okay.
As we sit here now, the president says the 1% tax on interest income is to be stopped. That is it.
And that is it. And we'll leave it right here.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lord Mensah, lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, and Honorable Benjamin Podo, who is from the Finance Committee and MP for Ho Central. Is Tanyigba in the Ho Central?
Sure.
That's my late mother's former constituency. Yes.
That's
yes.
Cool.
Her town is in that constituency.
I see.
Yes, indeed.
And I come from Tanyigba myself.
I see. You may be my uncle.